A gruesome roadside display. The body of a Mississippi woman found tied to a mailbox.
You can clearly look at that and say there's something not right.
Did the beautiful mother of two do this to herself?
To hang yourself right here at this location, you would have to do amazing things.
Or was it an attempt by a killer to cover up the crime?
Looking at the photographs and everything, I just knew there was something suspicious.
For David Johnson, losing a child was heartbreaking enough.
They took my daughter.
But his pain was made even worse for two reasons.
My granddaughter and my grandson, they don't have their mom.
He lost one of his two daughters. His grandkids lost the only parent they've ever really known.
How do you explain this type of death to her daughter?
Well, this is why I want to make sure that my grandchildren are aware that their mother did not take her own life.
Despite what the medical examiner put on their daughter's death certificate, the Johnsons don't believe Jessica committed suicide.
He could have checked undetermined or pending investigation as they're claiming now.
With the final medical examiner's report still months away and desperate for answers now, the Johnsons turn to forensic scientist Dr. Maurice Godwin.
It should be homicide, but at least at the minimum, it needs to be changed to undetermined.
Dr. Godwin has 2 decades of experience working on high-profile murder investigations.
Is it possible, from your expertise, to successfully hang oneself from a 38-inch post in a shoelace?
Well, I've stopped using that term, hang, and prefer to use the term tied to.
Dr. Godwin recently met with Linda to explain why he doesn't believe her daughter took her own life.
This should be sent to the crime lab.
And the strange scene certainly is hard to explain. The body found on the ground with bent knees and her neck tied to a waist-high mailbox, fashioned like a noose with 2 shoestrings.
Based on the way the string is around her Adam's apple here, she would have never passed out anyway, because I don't think there's enough pressure to cut off the air.
He says the positioning of her body against the mailbox also doesn't make sense.
The majority of the force of the pressure was on her cheekbone.
In that position, he tells me, Jessica would have been in excruciating pain.
She's alive, supposedly, when she sits down there. So she has to put up with that pressure on her jaw from the edge of that 4x4 post until she dies. Never happened.
Not possible.
Never happened.
And if the shoelace could cause enough pressure to strangle her, he says there would be a very noticeable scar left behind.
How much indent do you see that string making compared to her jaw? Little.
Something else he finds suspicious?
In my opinion, she didn't tie this.
The knot used to tie the shoelaces together.
It is so precisely tied really close to the end. So to me, that would be difficult to tie this without a proper lighting too.
I don't think that Jessica would be capable of doing that.
Former Memphis police officer Ro Marino has also been looking into Jessica's death as a favor to her family. He agreed to meet us at the mailbox where her body was discovered by the mail carrier.
Someone that's coming and erratically trying to hang themselves in the cover of dark. And you look here, this is a rural area, so it's very dark. No street lights, anything. It's not gonna be as precise of a knot.
And that's important. It was late at night, in addition to, it wasn't a long string, just 2 shoestrings tied together.
That's right.
And he says complete darkness would not have been Jessica's only obstacle.
Keep in mind, when I'm down here, it looks clean, okay? This grass was up here.
The former police officer doesn't believe the mailbox, which stands just to over 3 feet, would have held up under the weight and force of someone's struggle.
I'm just barely touching it, and you see how it's almost coming out of the grass.
Right.
Marino has investigated many crime scenes during his years in law enforcement. And like Dr. Godwin, he doesn't think Jessica committed suicide.
To me, and to anyone with some common sense, would know this is not a suicide by hanging. She was placed here.
That was a staged crime scene.
What else about it indicates it was staged?
The purse.
If Jessica had hanged herself, Dr. Godwin says her hand would not have remained resting on top of her purse.
If you are being suffocated and the air and life is going out of you, your hand would not be in that position.
That's right.
And he questions her hair, which appears to be entangled in the shoelace.
Because she has to get adjusted, right?
Right.
Would a female just flip it on top there, and what that allows her to do be closer to the skin?
When visiting the mailbox for himself, something else didn't add up for Dr. Godwin.
If you did want to hang yourself, there's plenty of trees around. I looked at them. There's some low-lying limbs. Why are you going to choose the U.S. Postal Service mailbox?
If she would have been suicidal, Jessica would have never done it that way.
Based on statistics, Jessica's mother is right. Women are far more likely to commit suicide by taking pills.
If they would have told me that she had overdosed on Xanax, I think I might have believed that.
But for now, asphyxiation by hanging is the cause of death listed on her daughter's death certificate. The final report from the state medical examiner is expected by the end of the year.
Her body should have been given to a known forensic pathologist for a detailed autopsy.
Dr. Godwin says he isn't expecting the report to reveal much new information since only a partial autopsy was performed.
Jessica should have never been cremated.
Let's make it clear who made the decision, though, to cremate her.
In their grief and confusion, Jessica's parents made the heart-wrenching decision to cremate Jessica due to financial issues. And they also believe the police had the necessary evidence to investigate. It's a decision they regret. Now they're convinced Jessica needs justice. Up next, the toxic relationship friends say Jessica couldn't escape.
She'd be like, this guy is gonna kill me.
Plus, a closer look at the evidence leaves Dr. Godwin stunned.
This should be in law enforcement's hands.
Why do you think a homicide investigation initially wasn't even acknowledged or initiated in any way?
Well, I think it's her lifestyle and who she was hanging with.